But if there's a book that you will read about font that might be interesting, maybe this is it. Hi everyone, this is Paul Loves Read, and as you know in this channel, it's all about promoting the love and joy of literature, and we hope that our little channel helps you find the right book for you. And today, I'm going to talk about this very interesting book. It's called Just My Type, written by Simon Garfield. And again, it's a very interesting, very niche topic of a book. It was published in quite a while back, actually, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on. Tama. It was published in 2010. So matagal na. It's quite old in terms of publishing date, but still a very interesting read. And it's a nonfiction. It focuses on the different typefaces and fonts. Yeah, you heard it right. Fonts. Why am I reading a book about fonts? And why is it interesting? But so this is a very personal choice because I am generally interested in fonts and different typefaces. I like design, and that's why this book interested me, because I wanted to learn about what makes typefaces interesting and how can they affect advertising and marketing in the way you design, right? Sometimes, and I'm sure you've been there or here, you've seen it in our phones, wherein may mga app na you could download different fonts in your phone, and then you kind of decide what font you want to use. Do you want to use an italic font or a bold font, and so on? So this book talks about that. Why do we have that desire? Why is it interesting? Why is it fun? And what's the origin of it? What's the history behind it? Who were the first people who designed these fonts, and why are they important? So that interested me. And again, it's a very niche topic, but if you're into that, it's a fun book. It can be very technical. For the unfamiliar, apparently, after reading this book, it could be very technical. So, each part, each part of a letter has a name. So, for example, yung mga, ang tawag dito? For example, the letter T with the ganon, with the T, they have a specific terminology about the upper and the lower part of the letter of a font or a typeface. They have a specific name for that space between the letter. Diba, letter A, it has a hollow inside. They have a name for that. And then, for example, letter G, and then it will go at the bottom. They have a specific name for that. So it could be very technical, but then it's fun if you're into design. You'll appreciate it. There's something for you here. There is history here. And admittedly, that's one of the parts of the books that I enjoyed also the most, because I love history and I like reading about the origins of things. So for the younger generations, font or typefaces that you see in our computers now, these are not completely generated by computers or by AI or by a software. The fonts, the letters that you see here were absolutely inspired by people who actually had to design it by hand. So to me, that's kind of amazing if you think about it. And they did that back in the 1700s pa. Way back pa. Because, think about it, guys. Shakespeare was writing stage play production back in the 1500s. How is he going to write them without the font, without typefaces? So it's as old as that. How are they going to print books and newspapers and novels without typefaces? It goes way back. And these fonts that you see now are just variations of those original typefaces. And if you're not into the technical stuff, that's the part that you might appreciate in the book, because it would really give you a sense of respect and awe on how they used to do it back then. Kasi it's hard work, it's a lot of labor, and it's expensive. Yung pa pala, it's very expensive. And back then, owning a printing press and being the printing press company, it's a highly respectable profession. Why? Because not everybody can print letters and news and novels. That information, that profession is reserved for the printing press. And because it takes so much time and so much money and resource to print something, they had to absolutely make sure that what they print is always true and factual, and it makes sense, it's relevant. So in that sense, they also became kind of like the gatekeeper of what they're going to put out, right? For example, whatever propaganda, whatever news about the king or queen, yeah, it started in Britain, and what war propaganda, that could be another one. So it's important, I guess is what I'm saying. So that's just a part of it, right? I mean, the origins and the history behind these fonts that you favor, it's interesting. Another thing that I found funny and interesting in the book is that the fonts that you see in your computer, yung mga weird names doon, actually are named after people who made these fonts. So for example, Gil Sans. The font Gil Sans is actually from the man who created it himself, Gil. And then another one is Baskerville. That's the person's name. Baskerville is the one who created that font, Baskerville. And again, the fonts and typefaces that we see now are just a variation of the many fonts that they created back then. One of the famous fonts that we know, for example, is Comic Sans, right? It's everywhere. It's so ubiquitous, and he will explain the history, the origin of Comic Sans in this book, and why it became so common to the point where people are sick of it. It's a funny story, actually. And then he will also share about the font used in Barack Obama's presidential campaign, how and why that specific font became instrumental in his branding, because it is. And then why some fonts are even patented. I don't know if patent is the right word, but copyrighted, I don't know, but owned by certain brands, like nobody else can use it, or it has to be used specifically in this size, in this thickness, and so on, because branding is important, and typefaces is all about, it contribute to the branding significantly. So those are some of the interesting stories that he shares here. I think this book would be perfect for designers, artists, graphic artists. Yes, graphic artists, absolutely. I'm thinking probably you've read it na nga but this is perfect for you. Why? Because it's all about design. It's all about giving typefaces character and personality, and how it's being used, and how it could be used. And it's about appreciating the origins of it, appreciating the importance and significance of it, and how it impacts history as well. And there are also a few funny stories in here about specific typefaces, so that's quite interesting. Yeah. And in conclusion, I guess it's a fun book. I enjoyed it. But again, it's a very, like what I said, that's why I said it's a very personal choice, because I know that it's a very niche topic. I mean, it's about typefaces and fonts. But if there is but if there's a book that you will read about font that might be interesting, maybe this is it. Because it's written in a funny way, in a light manner, and it really tries to relate to and with an average person, a non-artist, non-graphic designer person, like me, for example. So he talks about the typefaces that you see, for example, in the airport, in the transit, ganyan, and in the newspapers, and so on. And even the typefaces that you use in the office, like why do you gravitate towards Times New Roman, or why do you gravitate towards Arial font? Where did that come from? So your corporate might have something to do with that without you being fully aware of it. But yeah, those are just some of the, I thought, interesting things about the book. So yeah, again, may not be for everybody, but if you are into design, graphic design, if you're into, that kind of discipline, I feel like you would enjoy